Item D, receive, report, and adopt a resolution to protect redevelopment agency funds in light of state budget issues and impacts. We have 4 items, 2 for the city and 2 for redevelopment, and because of some procedural issues that just came up before the meeting, we will receive the reports and discussion, but we won't have any action this evening on those items.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council and the agency board. At your last meeting, the City Council demonstrated their strong concern, and the agency board sitting in joint session demonstrated your strong concern and your urgent interest that we move forward immediately to evaluate and then recommend to you any actions that would be necessary and prudent to protect redevelopment resources and redevelopment activities in the face of the governor's proposal to eliminate redevelopment altogether as a state budget balancing strategy. The story in terms of what's going on at the state level has not changed much since our last report to you. In other words, it continues to be an urgently important issue for our community as well as communities up and down the state of California. Aggressive actions are underway, being spearheaded both by the California Redevelopment Association as well as the League of California Cities, and you can expect to continue to hear urgent calls for action, including letter writing, which we have done based on your direction at your last meeting, advocacy by talking about the issues and the impacts to state legislators, and potentially other advocacy actions as the days and weeks progress. The specific direction that the council and the agency board provided was for us to evaluate a number of action items and to return to you with a report and any actions that we considered urgent and necessary. So as the mayor indicated, there is some additional analysis that we would like to do, and we are confident in our ability to give you a thorough report tonight and to provide you with an updated action item at your next meeting that we believe will potentially provide even greater protection and give us an opportunity to more carefully evaluate the potential for agency member conflict of interests relative to this particular action. What you have in front of you tonight is a summary of those items that we discussed briefly with you last time, and I'm going to go through them and tell you what the results of our analysis is as we, along with many others throughout the state, are looking at a variety of means by which we might adequately protect our redevelopment resources. First, we recognize that the governor's proposal does not intend to affect existing agency obligations that have been documented, that are in place, and that are fully enforceable. So as outlined in the report, we were pleased to see that our agency does have a small number of existing agreements which our review demonstrates are in fact adequately strong to assure that we can be reasonably confident that additional protection is not necessary. Those actions include existing cooperation and reimbursement agreements and owner participation agreements that the agency has previously entered. Those are outlined in the report. There are a total of 4 of them. They relate to the crossing project and our affordable housing subsidies to the properties owned and managed by Archstone, and they include the pledge of redevelopment resources to the bond indebtedness for the resources that built the Police Plaza facility, as well as a cooperative agreement between the city and the Redevelopment Agency related to the advance of funds and the outstanding note payable, essentially, from the Redevelopment Agency to the city, whereby the city advanced funds to the agency a number of years ago during its startup phase before tax increments sufficient to operate the agency were being generated. So, good news, those agreements are in place. They've been reviewed, and our recommendation to you is that they remain adequately strong to reasonably protect the agency resources. We considered the potential of looking at transfer of real property owned by the agency. As the council knows, we have one such piece of property. At this time, there is a great deal of uncertainty in the governor's proposal about what the state would actually do with real assets. And there's enough uncertainty that we don't reasonably expect that the state would actually seize real assets owned by redevelopment agencies. So at this point, we're not recommending to you that any action is necessary to secure the former Wells Fargo site that is currently owned by our San Bruno Redevelopment Agency. If it became clear that that was a necessary, important item, that could be done relatively quickly. At this point, we're not recommending it. Similarly, we're not recommending that we take action to establish a housing authority. That was another item that is being considered up and down the state in order to protect housing funds. We recommend that a cooperative agreement is a more flexible and implementable idea in order to protect redevelopment housing set-aside funds. You have some of those agreements already in place, and we'll recommend additional cooperation agreements to protect affordable housing funds. And that is the primary recommendation that we are making to you tonight, and that is that the city and the agency essentially enter into cooperative agreements on two different topics. The first is the authorization for an agreement that would provide redevelopment housing set-aside funds to be dedicated to certain affordable housing projects that would be completed by the city. There is a chart in the staff report that outlines approximately 5 specific locations where new affordable housing projects might be envisioned over the next several years. A couple of them are already in some phase of discussion, and we anticipate that at least some of these projects are very likely to come to fruition and could only be completed if they received some form of affordable housing assistance, as this redevelopment agency has previously provided very, very successfully to the construction of affordable housing at the crossing. So we will be recommending to you that you consider entering into a cooperation agreement that would situate the availability of housing set-aside funds for those projects. On a more broad basis, we are recommending your consideration of a similar cooperative agreement for public improvements. Public improvements that, should redevelopment continue in force and effect as it currently exists, would be considered by the agency and would likely be funded and completed using redevelopment funds. In order to develop the list of specific projects and the amounts that we anticipate would be necessary over a period of time to fund those projects as they're listed in this report, Staff reviewed several source documents, including the 5-year implementation plan, which was approved by our redevelopment agency approximately or just exactly 1 year ago. That 5-year process outlines a tangible work program and specific projects that are proposed for consideration during the 5-year implementation period. So these are good, solid concepts and projects that the agency already has front and center on the radar screen. We looked at the projects and improvements that are moving their way to completion through the strategic plan that is being developed through our downtown and transit corridor specific planning process. As the agency and council are aware, there is a tangible vision that plan expresses for the downtown and the new Caltrain station area of our community in the heart of our redevelopment project area. Without redevelopment funds, that vision it will become a dusty booklet on the bookshelf. If we are able to adequately articulate those projects, as we've attempted to do in the document you have before you tonight, we anticipate that we have a good shot at being able to protect redevelopment resources and deploying them in the manner that you anticipate based on that strategic planning process. We looked also at the general plan and at the redevelopment plan itself as it was situated when the city first formed its redevelopment agency in 1999. So all of the projects that are listed here have both a current and a tangible redevelopment purpose. They are anticipated and eligible for funding through the redevelopment tax increment resource, and we believe they're necessary and vital to the future of this community. The action that we will be bringing back to you at your next meeting in 2 weeks from now will be to enter into formal cooperation agreements whereby the agency pledges its tax increment resources in the amounts that are outlined in the documents you have in front of you, pledges those resources over time to the city, and via the city, post redevelopment being terminated, then the city, with the redevelopment resources having been pledged and secured, would then become the agency that would complete those projects that are currently envisioned to be completed as well as funded through redevelopment. The staff proposes that we also look at some additional projects that are anticipated in our general plan, outlined in the redevelopment agency formation plan, but not yet articulated in this document, related to replacement, rehabilitation, and improvement of public facilities. Again, with the exception of city halls, which are not eligible as redevelopment projects, many of our public facilities may be eligible as redevelopment projects and are not yet included on the list you have in front of you for a variety of procedural reasons that we would like to assess a little bit further. There is an additional procedural requirement in order to contractually obligate redevelopment funds for those types of purposes through a cooperative agreement. We'd like to have a little bit more time to evaluate and discuss with you those additional types of projects and to bring this back at your next regular meeting on February 22nd. I have Mark Sullivan, our redevelopment project manager here, who's done a great deal of work on this and is probably better able to answer your questions than I am, but between us, we're happy to take any questions.
Good. Any questions of staff?
I do.
Irene?
Thank you. First of all, the projects you've listed here are very vital, and I think it's great that you've got them all down, and it's in fact a nice, easy way to see where our money would go. I'm hoping that the public facilities that you're discussing, top on your list would be a library. And one of the words that Connie said was vital, and I believe that a library is vital to the benefit of everybody in our city, and I hope that that's one of the things that you're going to be looking at. So, thank you.
Whoops. Yes, the library is at the top of the list of the public facilities that we're looking at this point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? We'll look
No.
forward to the 22nd.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thank you to the council and the agency board for your leadership in recognizing what a critical threat this is to the future of San Bruno and to the state of California.
All right, thank you.